You're listening to Heroes in the Moment.
What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
Today, Moon Knight finale.
For the finale!
Wow. So, Moon Knight, of course, as a whole. So, spoilers ahead.
Spoilers.
So if you've not watched the episode, what are you doing here? Go watch it.
Facts. It's the last one.
Like, dumb. So
open Disney Plus.
It's simple.
Get some friends
if you don't
together.
have Disney Plus, just pirate it.
Pirate
simple.
it. Find a friend who does.
Exactly. Use their account.
We don't like illegal things,
right?
But,
do what you got to do.
Right. Exactly.
So spoilers ahead. So what a crazy action-packed finale. Very solid. I feel like, this show ended. I was a little bit worried going in it being only 43 minutes long.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I was like, whoa, that's a short finale. I was expecting it to be at least an hour or longer. But they did a really, really good job concluding everything.
Yeah.
But they also did a really good job leading up to more. Which also
I completely agree. And I will say, to its credit, it did feel a lot longer than when it was.
It did.
Like halfway through the
I agree.
episode, I was like, Michael, we're near the end, right? And he paused it. And we're like halfway through.
Yeah.
I was like,
right.
all right. So they fit a lot of content, I felt like, in a short amount of time without rushing, too much.
You were never bored in this episode for sure. And it was a great, solid finale. How I'd rate it amongst the other finales, I'm not exactly sure. Definitely better than Hawkeye's.
We'll get to that at the end.
But we'll get to that, but I'm still not sure. Of course, we'll rank the show at the end as well, and we'll get into it. So first off, of course, super action-packed. The CGI in this episode was also, they spent a lot of money, had to, on this episode. Yeah. It's crazy.
Looking back now, when all the times like, man, CGI sucks, first 4 episodes,
right.
Just like, bro, they saved it all for the finale.
This is why.
Which they should have.
Right, I completely agree, and it was crazy. I do think the finale had a little bit of cheesy parts from time to time. It wasn't, obviously it can't be perfect, but it still was enjoyable.
Yeah, some of the dialogue between Layla and Mark, and then a lot of stuff I just felt like was kind of predictable.
Right.
Between the characters.
Yeah, and I agree. Which the build up to this finale, like, man, I remember thinking a couple months ago, the debate of whether it be supernatural. It's so supernatural, so supernatural. Like, we saw some things in this episode I never thought I'd see in Moon Knight. So
facts.
That was cool.
Or the MCU in general.
Yeah,
to be
that's
honest.
facts. That is facts. And then there's some more aspects of reality. There was still some parts that I was questioning whether this was all real or not. Yeah. So that was pretty cool to see it itself. So right off the bat in this episode, it kind of starts off from the perspective of Layla, kind of escaping the pyramid with the cult of Ahmed and Harrow, which was super cool.
I missed her so much, episode 5. She was on screen. I was like, yes!
She was very gone.
Yes! Layla.
We love Layla.
Dude, she's a goat.
She's a great character. Like, they did a really good job.
She's not her character is not forced at all.
No, and she's not from the comics too, so that's a pretty good job, having bringing a brand new character. Shout out Layla.
That's a homie.
All right, so then we get her, and then of course we see Harrow kind of get more of his power through Ahmed. But
How did he do that?
No, I don't
it wasn't. He smashed the statue later. Right. So how did he pull power from Ahmed?
I don't know. I didn't get that.
Or
part.
was it in his staff the whole time?
But it's like his staff became more powerful. Maybe it's because Ahmed was like with him.
Yeah,
like, he had Ahmed in his hands, and he was able to turn his cane into like an axe cane. Like, I don't know.
It had like a gator on one side.
It did.
The axe. That was.
It was cool. It was awesome of a thing, but it was like super confusing and wasn't explained well. But I still think Harrow overall as a villain of the show, because he was the main villain of the show, was great. I think he's one of the greatest villains we've seen in the MCU in general. Like, he was a very great villain.
Amazing.
So I liked his character.
And I told you while watching it, a part I think why is because he almost doesn't feel like a villain.
Yeah.
He's a really wise, religious cult leader,
right?
Obviously, who's misguided.
Yeah.
I know,
and those are always the best villains. Because you think of Thanos, you think of Loki, you think of Killmonger, you think of Winter Soldier.
They have to be relatable, right? You have to understand where they're coming from and be able to say, okay, I could, in a bad scenario, see myself in that spot. Mm-hmm. It's not too far gone.
Yeah, I agree. Like, what a great villain. They wrote him very, very well.
Shout out
to
Ethan
the
Hawke
writers.
Killed it. Right. I love you, dude.
And the person who wrote the finale of this was the writer for Umbrella Academy. He also wrote the first episode, and then he wrote the 6th episode of the finale. So shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to him. I would like to see a whole series with him under the helm.
Umbrella Academy.
Freak. I guess I meant with Moon Knight, but I haven't seen Umbrella Academy.
I would like to see him do that, but he does a great job with Umbrella Academy, so I'm excited to see what he does in June with the 3rd season. All right, anyway, to move on. So we see Ahmed released, right? And I told you way back when I was wondering whether we'd see the big Ahmed looking person, whether we'd see that or not. And we did. which was absolutely crazy. And she like come up, and she was originally like, I thought she was gonna kill Harrow at first. I was like, okay, Harrow's sweating.
Like, she gonna eat
He's
him.
looking like he's about to cry like a baby.
I thought he was crying, like he was petrified.
Well, I would be too, man. Like you thinking like I'm gonna die.
You're talking about like a giant crocodile god of like death, bro.
That's way scarier than a hippo with a light voice. Hi. No. Hi guys. Love Turwat. Anyway, so he was released, and then of course Layla gets to Kamchu after Turwat warned her through the dead bodies, which was cool but weird.
Yeah, it is. I will say it's very comical and odd.
Yeah.
Watching these dead bodies like come back to life with like a high pitched women's voice. You know, it's just really it's weird to watch.
The dude raised up and he's like,
Layla. It's like a throat cut. It's so
that was
weird.
so funny, but it was weird. But anyway, so she released Kamchu, and then I remember you saying you were like in the episode, you were like, I wonder if the gods will fight, and then we got it.
Yeah,
Ahmed and Kamchu fought, and then they fight again later, but they fought right there and then. And I didn't think we'd get that honestly, but we did. And Kamchu, man, he can teleport like legit.
I know we got to see more stuff from him than I thought we would.
Oh yeah, definitely. But shout out Kamchu.
Yeah, shout out. And also shout out like the CGI. I thought it was very well done, especially on Ahmed for this episode.
Right. Especially when she
I didn't think it was too cheesy. Enlarged herself.
She enlarged herself with the souls of peoples.
Yeah, also that was really weird because the souls just stop after
That's the one
30.
thing. Is like the whole stuff, there's a lot in this episode that was really, really great. And then there's a lot in this episode that wasn't really explained too well. So it's like, it hinders me a little bit.
Yeah.
I personally think like, I'll say it later because I keep wanting
we'll
to jump
say it later.
Anyway,
but
we got the Kamchu Ahmed fight, which is really cool, and then we cut back to Steven once again, Mark in the field of reeds in Nebraska. And I was thinking like, dude, just stay in the field of reeds, peace, man.
Facts.
But he instead decided to go back for Steven
in Nebraska
that we know of.
You got corn cobs.
You got corn cobs.
You got. Some more corn cobs.
You've got some reeds.
Right, yeah. You got some fields.
You got some other things.
That's
barns,
right.
maybe.
When you combine them, what do you get?
A field of reeds?
I don't know.
Nebraska?
I ain't never been.
I've never been to Nebraska myself. Don't plan to. Anyway, no offense to those of you who live in Nebraska. All right, so we see Mark and he goes back for Steven in a really emotional scene. I thought that scene was great, and he puts the heart in Steven's hands. And they both revive, which I still think that part was a little bit odd. Kind of reminds me of Frozen.
I thought it was a little cheesy, but I think if it wasn't Oscar Isaac, it would have been like 10 times worse. Because his acting was really good. I feel like in a cheesy dialogue and sequence, I do like how they showed that Mark would rather now die,
right?
You know, with Steven than live with the guilt of knowing. Because, I mean, Mark has struggled with guilt for a long time, right? And he's like, I'm not going to do this. Goes back, knows he's, going to get sanded up. Right. But, I don't know, the whole, like, heart thing was really odd.
Yeah, it was. And then they released each other. Like I said, it was super Frozen vibes.
So what did that symbolize earlier? They had two hearts, right?
Right. Maybe they had to become whole.
Become whole. I think that was a symbolism because when they both touch that heart, I guess they share it, which is why we see later in the episode, they're able to so quickly change back and forth because they're no longer unbalanced.
Right.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that's a great observation, and you're completely correct because that is for sure. They become whole, and the character development of this show is also phenomenal. Shout out to that.
Yeah.
Again,
real,
like
man.
you said, Oscar Isaac again deserves an Emmy. He probably won't get one because it's a superhero show.
Yeah.
But he still deserves an Emmy.
Man, he killed it, dude.
Absolutely killed it.
I love you, Oscar Isaac.
He's a goat.
You're my dad.
We'd love you to come on this podcast, please.
Facts. Make a guest appearance,
please. All right. So then after Mark is revived and then Kamchu goes back and takes over his body once again, we see that Layla decides to become Turwat's avatar. What do you think about that?
That was crazy. Well, the whole show had been like leading up to her like becoming like the Red Scarab or whatever.
Red Scarab, yeah.
And then in a moment of distress, she goes to Turwat, and then we see her suit.
Right.
Well, actually, no. Let me rewind a little bit. I will say the whole like tunnel scene with her talking with Turwat
cheesy
was completely unnecessary and very cheesy.
I would have the whole time I was thinking like I'd rather see Moon Knight fighting than this.
Well, exactly. The tunnel was collapsing, and surely they were both aware of that. Right. But instead, they decided to have like this minute-long dialogue of them being like,
it was also super funny, and kind of crazy too, because she was like, all right, I guess I better be Turwat's avatar. And the next thing you know, in the body, you hear, the high-pitched voice, Layla! Like, what's that? That was so funny.
So it was funny.
It was cheesy,
weird,
but
man.
It was really weird. But anyway, she becomes Turwat's avatar, and the best way I can do it is she became the Egyptian Falcon, I guess you could say.
She looked cool.
She was cool. I love her suit, but she literally had the same powers as Falcon.
Yeah. I guess she couldn't fly, but she had a metal suit.
She could
she
fly.
had wings.
She flew in.
Did she fly in?
She flew in.
Did she actually?
She did.
Also, this is a part that I feel like that doesn't make sense. The avatars inherit the powers of the god. You're talking about a hippo.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, the hippo don't have wings.
Not that I know of.
Last time I checked, the hippo won't able to fly. Okay?
Not in this world.
How is Layla able to do that? That's Tara's avatar. How's she?
The best thing I could say is just Turwat, man. She just gave wings, and maybe she just I don't know.
That
just confuses.
think about it. That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
You don't see Moon Knight sprout an alligator tail and start swimming
Right.
because Khonshu is a bird.
I know. It would have been more sense if Moon Knight was more like that with the wings.
Exactly.
But nope. Odd.
See, that's weird.
I know. Like,
that's weird.
why not have another bird avatar? Like, why not make Turwat instead of a hippo? Well, I guess.
It'd be like Layla. Like she'll get like a really big mouth, and she'd be like biting everybody.
Just chomping
that's what,
people?
Yeah, just start like running around. Like that's what hippos
very
do.
possible, but
that would be so
morbid.
dumb, and we don't want to see that.
No,
At the same time, giving her wings,
right, and making her more like the Red Scarab. That's cooler. So, and she does become the Red Scarab, which was cool. But yeah, that was a little bit odd itself.
Very odd.
And then next thing we know, we see an awesome scene. We learn Moon Knight can fly, which was awesome.
Cool.
I didn't even know that.
Was that completely by Khonshu's power then?
Had to been, right?
Because he was like blowing the wind.
I don't think he can fly the whole time, surely.
Well, I mean, Khonshu doesn't have power over weather. Does he? Like that?
Storm.
Like
So I don't know.
I don't think Moon Knight can fly by himself. I think Khonshu has to.
It's kind of cool though. He
moved the sky or whatever. Then because of that, I feel like he was able to fly. But that scene was cool.
It was so cool.
It's like soaring through
and when
the
he
Egyptian
landed
night
in,
sky.
my favorite shot is when he landed in. He was facing Hera on the pyramid. My favorite shot.
And then
of the
like the camera
episode.
like switches,
Yeah.
so it looks like they're
A
running
side
at each
angle.
other from like a level.
Right.
When actually he's running up and Hera's running down.
So cool. And they collide each other and have this awesome battle where Marc and Steven flip back and forth as Mr. Knight and Moon Knight, which that I thought was super, super cool and well done. And Steven, man, he's come a long way. He became like Daredevil, like you said. Like,
Dude, Daredevil like pulls out, his like sticks.
Yeah.
It looks so freaking cool.
Dude, so
when I was watching it, I guess I was confused on, first of all, why they were switching so effortlessly, but I guess, because they share the heart, that makes sense. But then I was confused on how Stephen Grant was as good of a fighter as Moon Knight. Then he pointed out, like, because they're one, like, they share the same powers.
And like we saw in episode 5 when Steven realized that he can do anything Marc can do. They have the same body, so he got that confidence.
That was crazy.
Which was super cool. I love Steven, and I will say it from now on. I like Steven more than Marc, and I'm being honest with that.
Steven's
the best, and I love him so much. And I can't wait to see him again because he's great. I was super afraid in episode 5 when he was gone. I was like, oh no, he's going to be gone.
Yeah.
But thankfully he came back, so I was very, very thankful.
Facts.
So then also very cool is the Hera and Moon Knight fight, along with in the background the Ahmed Khonshu fight, with Ahmed being huge and Khonshu also being huge, unexplained.
Yeah, they don't explain that.
No.
Never in the series do you see Khonshu, change height.
Right.
He's always, probably like
And imagine
8-9
the
feet
people
tall.
in Cairo, like, what were they thinking? Like, oh my goodness, we're all going to die. That's what I thought
I
would
would
have
have been out of there. That part was very weird. It's also very predictable. Avatar fight Avatar, God fight God. It was just weird. You go from seeing Amit consume like 30, 40 souls, and she grows like 3 times her size. The
Correct.
souls just stop, and they don't explain what was happening to the followers.
She was busy.
They're
she
like,
couldn't eat them anymore.
judge them all, and then they don't judge them
And
all.
then they don't
stop
go back
after
and
the
show
block.
his followers anymore after that. Like,
Yeah.
what happened to them?
But they don't. They don't. They
They
don't.
don't.
And then, like you said, they don't explain how Khonshu decides he's like the freaking
Right.
Eiffel Tower
Right.
out of nowhere, unless he's just more powerful than we thought he was. But
Correct.
like,
Yeah.
what?
It is crazy.
He wasn't consuming anybody.
There's a lot of unexplained stuff, but at the same time, it was enjoyable, and I had a good time watching it. So
I did too.
I'll give it that credit. And then, of course, the episode wraps up when, of course, Moon Knight at first is pinned down by Harrow, and then he does his little eye switch thing. We assume, of course, Jake Lockley involved. We assume he turned into him, but we don't know yet. And then, of course, Steven and Marc were not involved in that. And then, of course, everything was like destroyed, and Harrow was there. And they take Harrow back to the pyramid where Layla and Marc say some ritual that try to confine Ahmed and Harrow's body, right? Which also I thought was weird in the show, to be honest.
That whole part was rather confusing, but like once again, it hinted at Jake the same way. You know, he blacked out was the same way in episode 1 where he blacked out. You know, the flashes. He wakes up
and 3.
All the followers around him are dead.
Right.
Harrow is like beaten to a pulp, and who is it? Was it Mark that woke up?
It was Mark that woke up originally.
He had the weapon like on his head. I was like,
he was about to like full on kill
Jake
him,
freaking like body them as far as we know. But it was cool because we never had a witness to it, and we see Layla, and she was like, "Bro,
she's
what
like,
was
Mark,
that?
what did you do, man?"
And then it was really cool seeing the instant dialogue between the two personalities. Like, was that you? Absolutely not.
And I love that development too, to where they're able to talk like that now instead of just through mirrors and reflections.
Switch back and forth. And I will say, one note, during that whole fight, they switched so cool. Like, when like Stephen Graham get knocked out of the shot, you would like see Moon Knight, like Mark Spector, like jump back, and like the way they switched was so cool.
It was so great, so great.
So shout out the whole thing, but yeah, I don't know. The whole thing with trying to like imprison Amit in the body, because I guess what they say, it's like safer than a statue, because you can break a statue easier than you can like
and then they just wanted to kill the body. It was what Kamchu's plan was, and of course Mark would not go through with it, with Layla being there as well, and Kamchu, with quotation marks around it, released him anyway. Mark and Steven, from this deal that they hadn't made the earlier of the episode. I
thought Khonshu was gonna like come out as evil during this point.
That's what I was thinking.
Because Khonshu was pushing Mark to kill Harrow. Also, that part was very cheesy because it was like, you don't have to.
The whole
do
time
this.
I was thinking he would say no.
Was cheesy.
Like when he's like, release me, and I thought Khonshu would be like no,
like,
and then there'd be like something confrontation between the two, but that didn't happen. Which was super interesting.
I was like, okay.
But then after this occurs and he is released, the weirdest thing happens within the show, which the ending itself, again, brings back that trippiness because it was so trippy.
Yeah, the ending was
we go back
weird, man.
to the mental institution with Steven talking to Harrow, and then, of course, we see the reality bleed in, literally and figuratively bleed in, to the universe that was in his mind, I guess, created in his mind. We see that. And it's straight out of the comics, too, this mental institution, so that it's in his mind. It's straight out of the comic books. Which I found that out later. So that was pretty cool.
I was definitely glad they clarified it because it seems very real. But like you said, we see like the blood from his feet like soaking, and you see him start to realize. And then we see just one body, no personality changes as far as we know, but we see 3 different accents.
We do.
Oh,
I still
at
think
least
that
2. I think
Steven
and
just
Jake.
Steven and Mark.
No, it was Jake because you hear
I don't think it
Doc.
was.
You hear I
hear
promise
Doc,
it's Jake.
But it wouldn't make sense if it was Jake there.
I don't know. No, Mark doesn't say Doc, in like a New England accent though.
Right.
I'm telling you, and then like he would look like really grimacy, and then he'd move back. Like I'm telling you,
it looks like him and it seems like him, but at the same time, it was just odd because it wouldn't fit there, if that makes sense. Because I feel like that interaction needed to be just Steven and Mark.
I agree.
For it to work.
But I can't explain it any other way.
I can't either, so I don't know.
Mark doesn't have an accent like that, and he doesn't use that, type of words.
I don't know, but hopefully we'll see in the future. And then after that, we see Mark and Steven wake up in the bed back in London, which is also weird.
Yeah.
And then have a conversation.
How did they get back there? Did Khonshu put him back there?
I have no idea.
Khonshu had to have teleported them back.
I guess.
But he don't have that power.
I know. It was super
weird.
They
just wake up and he's tied up. So the whole time I was thinking, was that whole thing a dream?
That's what I was thinking.
That Mark is waking up from.
A dream?
You know?
I don't know. And then, of course, the episode ends there, which a really weird ending. I wasn't a huge fan of the ending itself there, but it redeemed itself with the end credit scene.
Well, I agree, but what did even like Mark say to Steven? He's like, I can't believe you live in this like crappy place. And for some reason, it zooms in on the goldfishes. We see now there's 2 of them. Is there significance, you think, between the one goldfish? Now there's 2.
Oh, yes, it is. Significance is now there was one body, and then now there is 2 of them, and they became one, and now there's 2 fish representing both of them.
Yeah. That's crazy. And if you look too in the thing, you see the boat that Tower is at, and then you see the doors that they walk through is on the very right side too. So
I don't know. I guess there's cool. 2 of them now, and then they're together as one, which is super symbolic and awesome. But now we get to the awesome end credit scene.
It was weird, but then it led to the best part.
It was a great end credit scene. Fantastic. The best end credit scene we've had of a Disney Plus show. Especially better than Hawkeye's ripoff of an end credit scene.
That's so dumb.
That should have been the first episode. Anyway. All right, we get that end credit scene, and of course we see Arthur Harrow is in an actual real life mental institution where he does belong.
Egypt.
In Egypt.
As to clarify later.
And then we see someone take him out there and then to place him in a limousine with a suit and tie Khonshu.
Well, you instantly kind of guess who it is because
instantly
you see dead nurses lying around.
Right. You see the cabbie hat.
You see the cabbie hat in the mirror. You're like, homie killed people to get him out.
That is 100% who we think it is.
And I wonder why Khonshu's in a suit. Like, that's what Stephen Grant wears.
Maybe he's kind of grown to where, because he's bust out of his, his rock, so now he's in full control. And he wanted to be formal, I guess, for this occasion.
Wanted to be.
But anyway, he was telling Harrow about the stuff, how Mark is more broken than he thinks he is.
Yeah.
And then Harrow was like, you can't do anything to me. He's like, you thought. Mark and Steven were never who I really wanted. I never really wanted Layla.
I never wanted them.
I wanted someone else. And then he knocks on the door and he's like, Harrow, I want you to meet Jake Lockley. And
Jake.
Like, yeah. And he's got the cabbie hat. He's got the evil eyes, the evil laugh.
He's so evil.
Oscar Isaac, again, shout out. Incredible acting.
Yeah.
And he turns around and gives it. I don't know what language that is, so forgive me.
I think it's Spanish.
It sounded
Maybe
Spanish,
Portuguese,
but I wasn't sure. And then he shot Harrow with the
as
laugh.
he's like smiling, like with no emotion.
He looks psychotic, and I love it.
Shoots him.
I loved it.
So like, first of all, that scene was crazy. They've been hitting Jake the entire series, like with the woman, with the goldfish, with all the blackouts. With episode 3, the killing the assassins. Episode 1, kill the followers. Episode 6, almost killing Harrow. You're like, freak, Jake has to be here.
And they built it up perfectly.
And they finally drop it.
And part of me was like, originally I was like, I thought they'd introduce him like episode 5, episode 4, episode 6, and now we're got him at the very end credit scene. And then that leads me to believe, of course, we got to get a season 2.
Season 2.
For sure. And I loved how the fact, the season 1 villain was Harrow, right? And this seems like the season 2 villain will be the villain within, being Jake Lockley plus Khonshu as the main villain of season 2.
I really hope so. I don't even know if Oscar Isaac has signed a whole contract.
Well, the whole, I did read, and I'll say this for you guys who don't know, I did read that Kevin Feige and the rest of the executives in Marvel Studios changed the contract plan, because used to, you would sign on to multiple movies, projects ahead of time, and then of course sign another contract or renew a contract, but now they have it to where you just sign on one at a time.
In case you suck,
in case that happens, or in case something, you need to back out or something needs to change. So I'm assuming Oscar Isaac will. He seems to love the role, and I really hope he does, because I want to see him in not only another season of Moon Knight, I want to see him in the movies with other characters.
Facts.
So
he would fit great.
Hopefully we'll do it for sure.
With that whole end credit scene, to clarify, the whole time Khonshu knew about Jake, right?
Right.
He knew about it,
but Mark or Steven did not,
and he didn't want to tell him,
right?
Because ultimately he wanted Jake.
Right.
I guess because Jake's just brutal. He's not afraid to do what the other two want.
And I love how they changed the comic origin of Jake. Because used to, Jake was just an informant, right? He just got information for Moon Knight. And now we get this evil, dark version of him. We have a bad guy who is within two good guys, which is such a cool concept. And I loved it. And I think everybody else will love it too, fans included.
And it answered like my biggest question for the finale. And that question was, if Mark and Steven truly get freed from Khonshu,
right?
How are they going to be Moon Knight? How are they going to have powers if Khonshu's not there? And they answered it. They're technically free, but Jake is not. So my guess is that Jake will be able to summon the suit. And over time, we'll see, I guess they'll somehow get back to it. But at least one personality is still serving Khonshu, the provider of their powers.
And they won't know about it. And then they'll have that, fight within to see what's going on, which sounds such an awesome for season 2. And I can't wait for it, because who knows when it'll happen. Probably 2024 or 2025. I don't know. But we'll see. But what an incredible show in general. So let's talk about rating. Before we get to the actual rating, like I said, finale-wise, this, of course, was one of the better finales. For sure, better than Hawkeye's. I think the only one it could be competitive with was
Falcon and Winter
WandaVision.
Falcon and Winter Soldier had a better finale than WandaVision.
I disagree.
I completely disagree.
I disagree because Carly was terrible in the whole episode. So.
Yeah, but dude, WandaVision was completely screwed by COVID. They had different plans, but we got to see no Darcy, no Monica.
Right.
The whole CGI fight was cheesy. At least
I enjoyed the fight. I thought the fight was great.
I don't know. At least with Captain America, I forgot. Falcon and Winter Soldier, we got to see Sam become Captain America, and we got to see some type of resolution.
I think that was cool, but the ultimate villain being so terrible in that show just absolutely.
Yeah,
just
but it
destroyed
wasn't
for me.
about the villain in the last episode. It was
But
about
it kind of was too. at the same
Walker
time.
like turning good, and then
Right.
I don't know.
Good-ish.
That's my homie. I don't know,
Anyway,
but like I said, I definitely do agree that it's the
Right.
best.
and I do think
Disney
that this
Plus
is
finale.
the most consistent Disney Plus show for sure by all of them. I think for sure.
It's more consistent than WandaVision.
I think it's more
but
consistent than any of them
Is it better?
than WandaVision. That's the question at hand.
That's a good question.
Before I rate it, I will tell you guys. Okay, so my bias, this comes into bias because I really love Wanda as a character and I really love the whole show and the concept of the show. I personally enjoyed WandaVision more. I like WandaVision more, personally. Moon Knight is a better show, by all means. I do think that Moon Knight is a better show overall and better quality, and it's definitely, for me, the top two. WandaVision, Moon Knight are definitely top two Disney Plus shows for me, but I personally like WandaVision just a little bit better. But that's just because of my bias standpoint.
Yeah.
But I think Moon Knight's a better show, if that makes sense.
Ooh. I agree with you in this. I do like WandaVision better as far as its style. I really do love trippy stuff.
Right.
I definitely do like WandaVision better. I do think that Moon Knight is more well-rounded.
Right.
At the same time.
Right.
If you ask me, I can't honestly tell you which one I think is better.
Right. Right.
I mean, because the plot of both is amazing. I think it comes down to the secondary things like the CGI and some of the cinematography.
And
But
both acting performances were great in both shows, so it's like also super hard.
I'd probably say I can't say. I
Can't
don't.
say.
I
You
truly
don't
don't
have to
know.
say.
I truly don't
I don't have
know.
to say. So out of 10 rating it, I'll go ahead and start us off. I did Moon Knight as a whole. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10.
Wow.
I feel like that's fair. I feel like the finale as a whole, I feel like the finale was the second worst episode, if I'm being honest. I think the best episode was
You thought it
episode
was the
5.
second worst?
I do think it's the second
Really?
worst. I mean, all of them were great episodes.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Second
But
worst after episode 3.
After episode 3. I think it was just, I think episode 1, 2, well, maybe it's better than 2. It may be a little bit better than episode 2.
4 was.
But it's
4 and 5
1,
would go.
4, and 5 are definitely better than the finale,
Yeah.
for sure.
I
So,
agree.
I just gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. That's a good score. That means it's a great show, very consistent, very well rounded. But I can't really give it higher because I gave WandaVision a 9. So I can't really, and I think WandaVision personally I enjoyed it more. So I'm gonna give it a little bit higher. But Moon Knight as a total, great show.
Listen, I hate to do this, and Malcolm, you know, and listeners, I hope you know, I hate to agree with you on things because a lot of times it just doesn't make it interesting if we're
Right.
always we have the same likes, we have the same takes. But I'm also gonna give it 8.5. Is
Yeah.
what I had settled on. I will say I would have given it a 9 if I think if they had a bigger budget. I
Right.
think with a lot more money, they could have improved a lot of the really
And I
cheesy
agree.
CGI.
I agree.
And I just think some of the dialogue throughout some of the episodes, especially in the finale, was just they kind of really dragged it along in a sense. It's close to a 9. Like I said, the plot was there, the acting was there, the cinematography was there, but a lot of the secondary things just didn't
Right.
add up in order for me to give it a 9.
And I agree.
And I think that's what I gave WandaVision to. I rated that
I think
pretty
you gave
high.
WandaVision a 9, if I remember.
I
don't
think
know.
I
think we both gave it a
I
9.
Put it high, but yeah, I think 8.5.
I think
is
I
definitely
gave
solid.
Loki back then. I think I gave Loki an 8.5, but now looking back, I think I'd give Loki an 8. So,
Yeah, but I definitely think this is Oscar Isaac's performance is the best performance we've seen in any Disney Plus show.
For sure.
I would say.
I agree.
And possibly in the movies. I'll go as far
up
as to
there,
say,
up there for sure.
I think, dude, it's
up there.
goated. But yeah,
Yep.
8.5.
Yep.
All around, I guess.
All right, all around 8.5 rating for Heroes in the Moment.
Okay, our official stamp of approval.
Official snap.
All right, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know by giving us a review and a download. Our podcast is available on all major platforms, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. So go ahead, check us out there. Stay tuned for our next episode, which will be Doctor Strange. Frick, it will be Obi-Wan, right? Yes, that's right. We're doing
Yes.
Obi-Wan next. Obi-Wan is next. We're breaking down. They came out with a new trailer today.
Today,
Actually.
May the 4th be with you.
So we'll break that out, and then Doctor Strange will come out
Tuesday.
Tuesday,
Yeah,
right?
and
So
Obi-Wan
that will
can
be
come out on
probably an hour long. So
Yeah, probably a lengthy one. And Obi-Wan will probably come out on Saturday, I'm assuming.
Saturday, we'll do Saturday for that.
For sure.
We're just making our plans right now.
We are, for sure. As we're talking.
Y'all privileged to it.
All right. We just want to thank y'all for listening. And as always, we love you 3000.